Learning how to connect Companion and Google Sheets is going to be really important on today's show, because what I've built is basically a way G'day, welcome to David Joshua Ford Live. This is episode 95, and on today's show we're taking a look at DJF Log, which is a brand new Google Sheets metadata profile that I have built. So I'm very excited to show that to you and how you can use that to improve your production process. We'll do a bit of a demonstration of that, and we'll show you how to import it into Companion, and then also how to connect Google Sheets to Companion and get that set up. So even if you don't get the profile that I've built, learning how to connect Companion and Google Sheets is going to be really important on today's show, because what I've built is basically a way of logging metadata in the field or in a studio or at house of worship, so that as you're going through your production, you have all of those takes and comments that were made in a live stream or insert shots that were done during pre-production. So this is a way to build that across a larger production with multiple people, be that at a live event or a solo creator, so that you can keep track of what is going on in your production. Let's take a kickoff here, and let's take a look at what DJF Log is with a demo. It's basically a way of logging production metadata into Google Sheets using Companion. You can get an idea of it from over here. This is what it looks like. It's got a metadata here that is being logged into columns here in terms of time of day, the recording status. I'm pulling this from my ATEM Extreme that's recording at the moment. Segment data or list data, and then other comments. And you can see down here we've got things like takes 1, 2, 3, good takes, bad takes, pickups, line flubs, and we've also got an auto marker that if you switch this one on, it can automatically make markers based on triggers rather than having to press this. So let's get this kicking off. I'm just going to hit reset here to jump back to my first line here. I can hold this down, and I'll give you an idea of what we're doing with this one. So this is using the Stream Deck or an iPhone or computer, anything that you want. Something like this sort of thing, you can have it on a web page. And it's basically, bring the right page up here. There's 2 or 3 sheets that we need to think about. The first is creating a list. So this could be, if you're a content creator, a list of things that you're going to cover in your tech review, or it could be in house of worship. It could be the segments in a church service, or it could be an event run of show, or it could be interview questions, or it could even be your narrative scenes that you need to cover. And that's just in column A here, all the way down. And that's gonna be the data that we pull into logging as we go. And then we're gonna end up in the log here, and it's going to log the time of day, the time code it was recorded at, depending on what device we're using. And then it's going to be the list data that we've pulled in here in column C. And then the particular comment in terms of take or good or bad, whatever you're putting in there to, excuse me, indicate that it's a good take or a bad take. So I've got 3 examples that we'll kick off with, and I'm just going to have a drink of water here. All right, so our first example here in list 1, you can see is content creator. So this is an example of something I did with lighting reviews in the past. So I've got parts 1, 2, and 3. We're talking about lights, the control, and the automation of it. And within that are subheaders of things that I'm going to want to record and document. And that's going to end up in this log segment. So let's jump over to my super source here so you can see a little bit more. And we are going to go back to log 1. I'm on log 1 here, but let's create a new log. So just at the bottom button here, I can hit new log, and that's going to now assign this to a new spreadsheet, log 2. And so you can see in this spreadsheet over here, I've now got log 2, and if I click on that, then we've got an empty spreadsheet, and we're ready to start logging onto a fresh sheet. This button up the top here is mark and next. So it basically says, like, whatever the data is in here, that is going to be written into, cells A1, B1, C1, D1, that kind of stuff. So that's the data that you can expect to end up in these cells. So back to my super source. I might begin the segment, and if I hit the button here, you can see it has logged the time of day and the time code of the file recording that would be in there, and the segment part. You can always play with this data as you go, so I can double click here and just make this easier to read. And then comment is basically a default comment field that you can change later unless you want to do something with that. I've recorded this segment, and now I come on to my next one, which is talking about DMX definition in here. And then I can say, all right, now we want to talk about the 300D Mark II and how that is integrated with DMX. And then the next light we're talking about is the Amaran F22C. And then the Aperture 60X, which is a great light but has no DMX. So you can see as we're going through, we're sort of logging this. And you can either do this yourself, or you could have someone else assigned to logging this, or you could build this into other parts of your production workflow so that when you're taking certain actions, it will just advance to the next queue automatically and record those things. So I'll just keep on laying the markers down here. You can see all of this data in here is being recorded and put into the spreadsheet. The other thing that we've got going on here is, let me see if I've got, let me just write a chat comment in here. Hello, where are you joining from? If I put this chat comment in here, we can also, if this was a live stream instead of a pre-record, we can turn on this button over here under, where am I? Making sure I'm on the right thing. So just say I wanted to bring up a comment. I've got this auto mark on or off. So if this is off, nothing will happen. But if I've turned it on, that's turning on a trigger so that when I, on here, fire this trigger, it's going to log that in the spreadsheet. So if I go back over to my spreadsheet, you can see I've got, let's bring my iPad in here so you can see. Short Pause Media is coming from Brisbane, Australia. Great to have you here. So I can hit Brisbane, Australia, and that is the comment that comes up and is logged. So you can see I'm on my Ethernet segment here that so I'm still on this segment, and each time I bring a new comment on, it is logging that. So that really helps with YouTube comments. If you're doing a show like this where you're bringing on comments and you want to mark what, where in the live stream that all those comments were talked about and brought on screen, that can happen automatically using that trigger. And let's do one more. So you can see that segment is there, and then it can just continue on. We've got Hornet Museum across the bay from San Francisco. Great to have you here as well. And this is all being logged in here, and then I could go on to my next segment, which would be talking about Citus 1, and then the Light Key app and Light presets. So you get the idea of how you could do either pre-recorded content or a live show as a content creator here, using markers from your console, or either ones that are got triggers behind them so that they just happen automatically and are laying down the data. Just going to get rid of that one. All right, so let's take a look at the next example, and this would be, the idea is if you are a journalist or doing interviews, or maybe even doing corporate work, and you have interviews with corporate staff who may not necessarily get a one-take wonder, and rather than having 40 minutes of footage that is not logged, you're going to have some metadata so that when you get back to post-production, you actually can make sense of what was done, what the good takes were, and so you can jump straight into editing in terms of where the good content is, and you can sort of skip over the takes that weren't so good. So we're going to do a slightly different scenario this time. So rather than this mark and next button that was up here, that was sort of marking that current list, and then it was advancing to the next part of our pre-recorded list. Instead, we're going to be sort of manually updating with what list we're on, and using these other markers to lay the data down. So you can see here I'm on list 1, log 2. So I'm going to advance to list 2 because I've got that selected over here. So I'm back to my super source. So list 2, I've already preloaded these questions. These are questions from an Amazon shoot that I did a while ago on team safety. So there's 4 questions here. And they might not necessarily get it off the bat, and so I want to keep track of what the good takes were and what the bad takes were. I'm going to hold down this list row button to jump back to list number 1, and you can see I'm back to question 1 here. And then my log row, I'm on log 2, so I'm going to select log 2 has been created. Oh, I've already got a log 2. I'm just going to create a new log 3. And so now we're onto a fresh sheet that we can start laying this down onto. Let's click on log 3, and we are ready to go. Just before we get going with this, there is one other aspect to this. This was a tool built really for a team as well, and one of the great things about Google Sheets is that you can share this document with any of your team members, and they can jump into there and start adding appropriate metadata to that. But you can also use what I've got this sort of up next thing in here. So when you generate these sheets, you create this template where there's a trigger. So basically, every time I move onto a new list, it's advancing the cues here. So question 1, this would work best if you make it like full screen. So you can imagine this being in the room. Maybe you just put it on a laptop. It's connected to the internet, super easy to place somewhere. And then you've got this like sort of visual sense of everyone being on the same page of like, either this is the content we're recording at this point in time, or it could be something like this where you've got an interview here, and like this is the question that we're working through. Particularly if you've ever had that scenario where you're running an interview, but in the background are stakeholders who have their input, and they just sort of want to give their input. And I think this can kind of keep everyone on the same page of like, this is the topic that we're talking about at this point in time. So what do your managers do to keep you and your teammates safe every day? And if we advance on to the next question, this would automatically update. So you can imagine how easy that would be to set up. You just need it set up on Wi-Fi. And as I'm clicking along here, we can get those questions in place. So let's start off on question 1. I'm going to go back to minimal screen here. and I want to go over to log 3 is what we're logging onto, and I'm going to go list 2. That's the questions that we're pulling from. So you could say, you could start this interview and hit take 1, for example. So you say, what do your managers do to keep you and your teammates safe every day? You go through the question a bit. Maybe there was a pickup, so you could hit the pickup at one point, and then they're like, you know what, this was terrible. Let's do that again. And so go take 2, and you can see in the logging sheet here, this is still, just make this a bit bigger. Still in that same segment. And then we come to a part which is, we say that was good. And then we can just move on to the next one. And what this is doing is when it advances the list row, it's taking the take number back to 1. So this would be take 3. Like just say we did take 3, now it's take 4. But if I advance to question number 2 up here, then we've got take 1 has been reset down here. So it just makes it nice and easy to sort of work through pre-prepared content, or it doesn't have to be any of this pre-prepared content. You could just be using the markers for like good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, whatever, like however you need to do it to keep it simple. All right, so we've got our question in there. Maybe we could hit tech floor. There was like a bit of rustling on the microphone and they flubbed their line at one point, and we did another take and it was golden. So we've moved on to part 3, question 3, which is what are the tasks you're performing that make safety essential? And we go take 1 of that. And maybe in there they say something that is controversial and we think PR might need to flag that before it sort of gets out. And so that's where we've got like this hold button, which would say hold for review. So we're just keeping track of what content is coming in. And all of this is in a spreadsheet where any other producer could jump into this spreadsheet and be like, you know, check with Bob, exclamation mark, you know, and make it a color and whatever. So, and then, you know, the show can go on, but you've got data that is still being laid down for this shoot. And then the final one was a one-hit wonder, and what safety opportunities would you like to share with leadership? And they aced it, and so that was good to go. All right, the last one that I want to take a look at, let me go back to over here, is the idea of using it in narrative work. So you might have a shot list and some scene data in terms of close-up or wide shot and an actor's name and some scene direction, and within that you want to sort of record the good takes or anything that happened along the way. So in this example, if we jump back over to my super source here, we can take a look at list number 3, and I've prepared a little scene that we have here with 6 shots, a guy sitting at an empty living room table and a notification pops up on his phone, and then a shadowy figure appears in the doorway. So again, we can go, we're on list 3, so we could, in our, down here, we can just advance to list 3. So now I'm targeting list 3 for the data, and you can see Ben, see you alarmed, is updated here already. And I can hold down to go back to the first row, shot 1. And then we've got log 3, but let's make a new log, and automatically it updates to log 4. The log row is reset to number 1. And if I want to view it, I can jump over to over here, log 4. And this is going to be the sheet that is coming in. So where are we? Let me just start back here. Okay, so we've got our shot 1, mid-shot, Ben alone, an empty living room table. I mean, go take 1. This is laid down the time of day that it was shot, the time code of the device that we're receiving from. Again, like I was saying before, I'm connected to an ATEM Extreme ISO here, and so that is just sort of the time code that I'm pulling in from that, but there'd be other time codes that you could bring in via variables. And I've got my shot 1, mid-shot, Ben alone, take 1, and let's just say didn't do a great performance first time round, so we're going to do take 2, and then we did a pickup and everything was golden, and so we're on to shot 2, and we take that, which is a close-up of the laptop screen, and we sort of push in with the camera, and we can, where are we? What was up to? Shot 2. I think I jumped a shot there. What are we? Shot 3, take 1, and maybe there was a bad take, so we did a pickup, and then we did a take 2, and I've also got in here rehearsal if we did a rehearsal, and then maybe the best take and take 3 finally, and then we moved on to the next segment, which is band alarm, looking over the shoulder. So you get the idea of how you could lay down data for sort of a short film or other sort of narrative project, or even like a commercial production where you've got very scripted shots and you want to sort of remember what happened and any sort of data that's relevant for the editor. All right, let us take a quick look back here and see who we've got joining us. We got Diego from Los Angeles, California. Hope you are staying safe, and you know, that's a tough time at the moment, and we're sort of keeping up with you guys and everything going out there. Being Australian, I'm very familiar with the fires. I was in the 2019-2020 bushfires, so it's scary, and good luck. And we've got Michael from Germany, and we've got DL for Fly Tim from South Germany. So a few Germans here today. It's getting a bit late over there, so hopefully that's a good time of day for you to be joining from. If you have any questions as we go along, let me know, drop them in the comments, and we can answer them. Let's jump to part 2. I just want to talk about importing the DJF log and how would you go about setting that up in Companion, and then we can take a look at the Google Sheets side of it. So if you are interested in what I'm doing here, we have, I can jump over here, on my website, I've got this for sale as a plugin that you can download. And if you're one of the first 10 customers, use the promo code FREELOG when you check out, and the first 10 people to download this will get this for free with that coupon code. So that's what you will download, and you're basically getting a zip file, which you'll unzip, and then you'll come into Companion to load that in. So I'm going to go into Companion here, and I'll just make this a bit bigger. Okay, and we're going to go to the import export. If you're not familiar with Companion, plenty of other videos on my channel about setting up and getting started with that, so I'll jump over what Companion is. But you can import the configuration, and let me see if I can quickly find that under here. So we choose the Companion config, and you can either do a full import, which will overwrite everything in your profile. Just hit reset and import. It'll bring in the buttons, triggers, and custom variables. Or more likely, you want to do a custom install because you've got stuff in there already and you want to put this on a particular page. So there's buttons and triggers that you need to import. We're going to start with, this is page 1. This is the profile that's incoming. Maybe page 1 in your profile is your home page. I've put this onto page 2 already, but page 3, page 2, whatever you want to do. So you could select the destination page. So you've got source incoming and then the destination page here. And, and then just import into page 2, and it'll say it was successful. If you look at buttons, you can see that this is imported here. And then come back to import export. And on the triggers section, these are the 2 triggers. Make sure they're still selected. And you probably want to do append to existing here rather than replacing all of your triggers. So if you go import append to existing, I think I've already done this in this. Yeah, I've done this before. So now I've got 2 versions of this in here. But that is how you would go about bringing that in. All right, and then to get started, there's one thing you need to do is just click this reset button here. And that's just going to generate all the variables. It's going to put in the default variables in terms of like log1 and sheet1. And it's going to create that next page in the spreadsheet. We don't have it connected yet, so we'll do that a bit later. And then this button down here, DJF Log, you might want to Command X to cut that and then paste that in your home page so that you can jump back to it. So you can see here, DJF Log, if I select the button, it's page 1, but I want to target page 2. And now when I press that, it'll jump over to page 2. And when I press this DJF Log home button here, that's going to go back to page 1. So that's how we've created this sort of page cycle. So you can place this anywhere in your profile and jump to it when you need it, and then it'll be away from when you don't need it. That's basically how to do that one. Let me just exit out of here. All right, last of all, let's take a look at how to connect Companion to the Google Sheets setup. So this is configuring the Google Cloud API. There's a couple of steps here, and there's a bunch of stuff that has some sort of secure data in it. So I've actually created a slideshow. A bit dry in here today. Gotta get back to the front here. So that we can take a look at how to install this. All right. So to connect Google Sheets to Companion, we're going to go to the Connections tab. We're going to click on Add a Connection if you haven't installed it. Otherwise, if you've installed my profile, it'll already be there. Click on the Google Sheets tab here. There's one thing you need to do first. If you click on this Google Cloud Console, then that is going to open you up into Google Cloud, and you can install, so you can just if you open up the Google Cloud Console, then in the API and services, you can enable the API for Google Sheets API. That's pretty straightforward and easy to do, so go do that first. Once you've done that, come back to this page, and there's this link that you can click, which will bounce you back out into Google Cloud to get set up. You need to create credentials, an OAuth client ID. You're going to be doing web application for application type. Your Google Sheets, you can give it whatever custom name you want. I've just called it your Google Sheets connection here. And then down the bottom, authorized redirect URIs. Use the domain name that's not being used. So I'm usually using port 8000 for my Companion setup. So something like localhost / 8001 would work, and hit create. That's going to create these OAuth client details. You need to copy the client ID and the client secret. You can hit these copy buttons there, and then back in Companion, paste them in to the client ID and the client secret. Paste in the same redirect URI, the 8001, and then turn on this reference spreadsheet by index and hit save. Then you can come up here, and there's another link here, Google Sheets Auth. And once you click that, after saving first, it's going to open up a page like this, and you've got to choose an account. Select the account that is the same as the one that you're setting up the API with. It'll say it hasn't verified the app, but that's okay because we know that what we're setting up here. So we're going to continue. It's going to give us some data on this app. Do we want to connect to it? And then we'll connect to it. And then it'll open up a page like this, which is probably where a lot of people get lost, because what you're actually looking for if you read the instructions on the Companion page is you're looking for the OAuth code, and that is everything after this code equals. So it's from /OA all the way through to the bit before it says and scope. So if you copy that section of the URL and then come back into Companion and paste that in the OAuth code box and hit save, once you've done that, you'll get this green icon here to show you that it is actually connected. And now you've connected Companion with Google Sheets, and the connection between them is working, but we need to add a spreadsheet in there. So we're going to go open up any spreadsheet, just create a spreadsheet using the same account same Google account that you were authorizing for the API. And again, we're going to copy this part of the URL. So there's the sheet ID here. So it says spreadsheets/d/ and then 1x. So that part all the way through to just before edit, that's the sheet ID. We're going to copy that part of the URL and then come back to companion and paste that in the spreadsheet IDs. Because we've selected this checkbox here, it means that we're using the Google Sheets app using index rather than the ID. This means that we can create templates and we can sort of work across different spreadsheets. So the first spreadsheet ID that is in here is going to be index 0. So if you, and that's what I've built in my profile to be around spreadsheet 0. But if you had other spreadsheets that you wanted to add in here to be able to reference, you would hit spacebar and then add in the second spreadsheet ID, and that would be index number 1. And then index number 2 would be the third one that you paste in, and so on. But I'm just using the single one for now. We hit save. And now it should all be connected. You might want to come back to here and shift click this reset button, because that is going to not only generate the variables in Companion that you're going to need to run this module, but it will also, in your spreadsheet, it'll add in these template sheets. So that's the next sheet, list 1 and log 1, so that we can start working with them on the Stream Deck or however you want to control that. Paste that menu button to wherever you want in your profile. And then you have a emulator in a web browser that you can get going with. So you don't actually need a Stream Deck to start off. You can get going right away in a web browser, and that might be easier sometimes if you've got a laptop and you're sitting somewhere and you just want to have everything self-contained rather than plugging in a peripheral. So if I go to here and I go to Surfaces and I either create an emulator, if you don't have one, I've got this one that I'm going to create. So if I click Open, then here I have this spreadsheet, which is on log 4. And so this was our little short film that we were talking about before. So I could do all this sitting at a computer. Doesn't need a Stream Deck, but I could go marker next. And now we're on shot 5, which is a long shot of a shadowy figure in a doorway. And I can go take 1 and take 2. And then you say bad section and aligned flub. So we did take 3. And that was good, but we did a little pickup at the end, and then we did another pickup, and we did take 4 because something really wasn't working, and then we're going to advance to shot 6. So Ben stands up and braces himself, and we go take 1, and that was the best take. And you can see in here, the data that's coming in is the time of day, 16:31, 19 seconds, and then the record time, like the time code. So this means that that's an actual number that I can reference back on a media file at timecode, 32 minutes and 49 seconds is going to be where I'm going to find Ben standing up, bracing himself, and that was the best take that we want to use rather than having to scroll through a bunch of footage and just get everything working faster and easier and better. So that's basically how you would set that up. And let me just jump back to here. Doesn't look like we have any questions. So if you do have any questions about this before we sign off for the day, let me know. But otherwise, hopefully that was helpful. Let's just go through a few other things of how to sort of control this profile. I'm going to jump back over to my super source just to give you an idea of what is going on here. So I'm going to go back over to my companion page here. I'll make sure I'm on the right one, 67. Okay, so running it through it again, this was the list row, so advancing forwards or backwards through the list that we have. This button here is the time code. So under each of these 4 buttons, so this, you got A, B, C, D, which is putting it into cells, columns A, B, C, D. And this is the data that is injecting into those cells. And it's going to give you a preview of what is going to go into those cells. So if I hit mark, you'll see that, sorry, I got a shift click. And you can see I've inserted that here. So we have the time that it was, the time, the segment, and then comment. And the way that I've built this is using variables so that you can customize it. So you could instead come in here, and under these buttons, you could update them with something. Like I said, comment, maybe a no comment. So this is another way of doing this, and you could shift click this to update that variable. And now when you hit mark, you can see that down here, it is saying no comment. So this has been built to be customizable so that you can change it how you want. So these 4 buttons can be changed. So button A here, that is inserting into the A column, that's using the internal time of hours, minutes, seconds as a variable. You could change that to something else. You know, you could put in the date or something like that, day of the week. This one is in B column is using ATEM2. Give me a sec. And so you would change this variable for something else. You go into variables, and under, where are we? Go back. Under here are all the variables that you could put in. So for example, we could, if we go back to no comment, maybe instead of no comment, we want to put in the camera shot that we were on. So you could go into variables and go into ATEM. Where's my ATEM? ATEM. And you could find the, I gotta see if I can program. So what is on program? The label program input 1. So this is, copy this one and go back to our buttons. And then instead of no comment, I could paste in this program 1 input. So it's gonna show me whatever's in that. I do need to click this. And then, so super source 1, that's what I'm on at the moment. And so now it means if I, where did my panel go? If I hit mark, it's actually going to be putting in the shot number that I'm, sorry, the ATEM camera that I'm on. So if I go back to a close up over here and hit mark, you'll see when I come back to super source that it put in Can 1 here, which is Canon Camera 1. So there's a ton of customization that you can do, either with changing out some of these time of day or timecode fields if they're not relevant for you, or on this last field, if you don't want to put in, good take, bad take, all that kind of stuff, you could update that variable to be something else, and then use the mark button to lay down those markers. The other thing to mention is the auto mark in that I did was this button here. So if I shift click, that'll just turn it on or off. That's actually not, it's not laying down a marker, it's just turning a trigger on and off. So let's turn this one on. Over on triggers, under auto mark H2R. So I'm saying on the condition becoming true that this H2R graphic goes on air, then I'm going to lay down this data in the sheet, and I've just got some H2R variable data here, which is the person's name and their comment, and that's going to be logged in the sheet here. So if I go back to my iPad, and we click on Michael's comment of good evening from Germany, you can see that when that comes on, the trigger is active and it's come onto screen, so we can chat about Michael having a good evening in Germany. And it's also logged it in the spreadsheet here, so I can just keep track of all the comments that were talked about in a live stream show. So that is something that you can do with this auto on and off button. Last thing with, come over here. So that's all self-explanatory. The reset button here, that's what we hit at the beginning to generate variables if they're not already in the system. You can press this again as many times as you like to just reset that data to the default baseline. So you can see I'm on list 3, log 4, and I'm on like row 35 of log 4. If I hit reset, it's gone back to log 1, list 1, and the rows are row 1 and 1. So that's all reset. And in Google Sheets, it actually hasn't done anything because these names already exist. It's not overwriting the data there. Let me just go back over to something where we can see that. So under you can see under, I'm on list 1, log 1, and I reset the data, but it didn't overwrite the sheet. If the sheet didn't exist, it would create it. If the sheet already exists, it won't do anything. So it means you're not going to lose data. The only way you would lose data is if you select a sheet and go over the top of it. So let's see, log 1. So log 1 and list 1. So now if I start hitting this, you'll see it's targeting this row here. And so it's starting to lay data over the top. The idea with the panel here is that you can see the data in here. So I could flick through, and this is updating the time that it was recorded, and the notes are showing up here on this panel for row 19 all the way through. And then when I hit 27, you can see these numbers show that these are empty. So if you have gone back, just say you're making a whole lot of logs and you wanted to go back and see something from this profile, you could do that, go back and log, and then just bring it up to the next empty column of A28, so that when you hit mark, you're adding data to the end of the spreadsheet. But if you're ever in a pinch in the middle of the show and you can't go into spreadsheets and check, you just want to using with the panel here, you can just hit new log, and that will just sort of continue on in a new log. I'm on log 2. I've actually got 4 in here, so I would have to hit up to 5, and then I would have log 5, and now it'll start putting that in there. 1 second. All right, well, hopefully that was helpful. Example of how you can use Google Sheets with Companion to bring in metadata for your production. If you want to get that profile, you can go to davidjoshuaford.com. It is available there. Let me know what you think, if that helps out your productions. And if you have any comments or feedback, we'd love to hear that. Until next week, take care. I'll see you then.